I want to get to Wolf because a lot of you want to know about Wolf. Walking away from the press conference today, I would not blame any of you if you're confused as to what the hell is going on with Eliot Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith. It was confusing. And I think some of that has to do with Robert Kraft's delivery, right? I think sometimes his delivery, he doesn't always hit the mark. There's a little bit of rambling from time to time. There is his voice. He trails off every once in a while. So I understand why you would walk away from that press conference confused and wondering what is going on. Why is Eliot Wolf still here? Why is he making these calls? So here's what was said. Who will be involved in the head coach interviews? What traits are you looking for in a head coach? And Robert said we'll have Alonzo Highsmith and Eliot be involved. So right off the bat, Eliot Wolf, Alonzo Highsmith are going to help during this coaching search. Now, I would not freak out about that because Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft, and I know some of you will say Robin Glazer and throw that shot. I understand. But Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft should be leaning on football people. And whether you agree with Eliot Wolf and what he's done, and again, he failed this offseason, there's no doubt. But you have Eliot Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith in the room to ask certain questions that Jonathan and Robert might not ask. Now, you could go outside of the organization and bring somebody in. I'll get to that a little bit later. But you do want football people in there, right? We also don't know how extensive. We don't know how extensive Highsmith and Wolf, their roles will be within this process. They could be just handling a lot of the logistics. They could be handling, let's set this guy up for this interview. Let's set him up for this interview on this day at this time. They might be doing a lot of the administrative stuff to go along with asking certain questions that Jonathan and Robert might not be thinking of asking, right? So just because they're involved in the search doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be here for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. We don't know specifically what role they will have within that coaching search. So then we got the personnel department question. What will happen with the personnel department? Here's what Robert Kraft said. We will wait until we bring that coach in. He's obviously going to have big input on who the players are, who the coaches are. So again, Robert didn't answer it the best he could have answered it. This is what you got to deal with at times, right? He did not answer it the best that he could have answered it, but he began the answer with, we'll wait until we bring that coach in. To me, that's Kraft telling us that whoever comes in as the head coach is going to have significant say within the program, and that absolutely includes the front office. I don't think Robert Kraft is going to go out there today and tell us that Eliot Wolf is gone because he doesn't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know what the head coach is going to want. And I don't think he's going to sit there and say that Eliot Wolf is going to be the final shot caller. We did not hear that today. We heard that they're going to still be here for the time being. But you can't fire everybody because you do need certain people in positions. And I heard Felger talk about this earlier today, and he's 100% right. You have the scouting department. You have scouts that have been working on these scouting reports. All the people that have done the legwork over the past year about this draft class, you need that intel. You need that information. You cannot just take everybody and bring them to this front office. Like if you are somebody, let's say Mike Borgonzi, who we'll talk about a little bit later, the assistant GM of the Chiefs. If you're Mike Borgonzi and you get brought in, okay, let's say hypothetically the Patriots hire Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel tells Robert Kraft, I want Mike Borgonzi to be my right-hand man in the front office. If you bring in Borgonzi, Borgonzi cannot bring his entire staff along with him because usually front office, they sign contracts through the drafts. So it's not like you can just pluck everybody. Now, when contracts come up, you can bring other people from that front office along with Borgonzi. If you want to promote certain individuals, you can bring somebody in. This is why Eliot Wolf last year brought in Alonzo Highsmith. He could bring Highsmith in because Highsmith was working with the University of Miami. He didn't have an NFL job, so he could go get his right-hand man and bring Highsmith in without much issue. But right now, it's a timing problem. It's a contractual problem. And if you bring somebody in like the Washington Commanders brought in Adam Peters didn't bring an entire staff with him. So right now you have that infrastructure, and it doesn't matter if you hate what they did in the draft, none of that matters. I'm just telling you it's a person problem. You can't go out there and hire an entire front office in January when you've got free agency coming up in March, when you've got the combine coming up in a month and a half. You can't go out there and build the front office from scratch. You just can't do it. You need people that are here right now to take the reins, to pick up the phone, to make phone calls, not to make deals, but at least right now, make sure that you're keeping the ship afloat. You can't just go out there and hire an entire front office. It doesn't work that way. So to me, it seems like the head coach will pick. Whoever gets brought in as the head coach will have major say in how things are going to go. Who's going to be the guy with, who's going to help, right? Who's the GM they want to work with? If it's Vrabel and he wants Borgonzi, or he wants Ryan Cowden, who is, in New York right now, was with him in Tennessee, the head coach is going to get his guy. If Robert Kraft wants his man is going to get what he wants. If you want to hire Mike Vrabel is going to say, this is the guy I want to work with. And if you don't bring that guy in, I'm going to be uncomfortable. So at the end of all of it, whoever Vrabel or Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn or whoever else interviews for the job, I believe they will have the final say as far as who they want to work with. And Robert Kraft will inevitably follow that. Eliot Wolf might still be here, but he'll be in the front office. He will not have, the end of the day say in all of it. He won't be, stamping his approval on picks. Alonzo Highsmith might still be here, but they will be in roles, I would imagine, lower than whoever comes in with the head coach. Unless the head coach comes out and says, hey, look, I love Eliot Wolf. And I want to work with Eliot Wolf. I want Eliot Wolf to be my guy. Well, if Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, anybody else, Brian Flores, any name you want to throw out there, if that's their opinion, then you do that. Because we've talked about this since Mayo was promoted. You need a head coach and a GM to trust each other, work with each other, all of those things. You have a shotgun marriage. You've got two guys that haven't worked with each other. It could be an utter disaster, right? If you come in, you don't like that guy or you don't trust that guy, it's going to be a mess. So I think whoever interviews for the head coach job, whoever gets that job, will ultimately have the say in who they want to work with, and whoever that person is going to be will end up having the autonomy. That's what I feel. This is what happens in a lot of front offices, folks. This is what happens to a lot of coaching staffs. A lot of times a head coach gets popped. The staff kind of lingers. The front office kind of lingers until you pick your head coach or your next GM, and then things start rolling. Now, Kraft said, again, I understand why people will be frustrated or confused by some of this. He was asked about if Eliot and his staff is going to continue. Will the coaching hire impact that? He said, we are looking for people working together. They will be staying on. Again, they will be staying on for now. They will be staying on for now because there has to be certain things done within the franchise that those guys are going to have to do until they find the next head coach. And you can work together but not have the say, right? Eliot Wolf could become the do boy. We don't know. So saying that he wants people working together and that those guys will be staying on, that doesn't mean they're going to be staying on for the long term. And it also doesn't mean that they're going to have the final say on anything. I think it's people's fears and anxiety right now that are in overdrive. So Tom Curran did a great job. He asked a fantastic question about why Wolf and Highsmith would stay. And Kraft said, I think that the department evolved a lot. A lot of things changed. We changed our grading system. But then Robert said, our drafts have not been good for a while. If you want to compete long-term, you got to have good drafts. He also mentioned we may have 2 quarterbacks. A lot of people talked about that. I don't think that's big of a deal. I think we'll hopefully see a big improvement this year. Again, I don't think, and this is me, and I could end up being wrong, I don't think Robert Kraft is telling us that Eliot Wolf is going to keep his power within this organization no matter what. I don't think that, because that would be a strategic misfire on a crazy level. Because if Kraft is saying that, then a head coach that wants to come in and wants to have say as far as who he's going to work with, you pretty much just alienated that guy. I don't think Kraft has any idea. I think he's got to sit down with the head coaching candidates, and he's got to talk to them, and he's got to get a feel as to who they want to work with, what their list of names are, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my take. My guess is that for the time being, Eliot Wolf and Highsmith will stay, but I do not think they're going to have the full autonomy that people think they're going to have. I do not believe Wolf and Highsmith have earned the right to call the shots after this past offseason. I think the head coach will get his guy. And I think the head coach and the guy that he wants will inevitably make the calls.